Welcome to RCC Talk, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for our discussion on distance learning. What is distance learning? I don't think I know a lot about it, but these folks know a lot about it. Basically, our distance learning staff spend their hours designing and developing courses for our instructors so that we can provide instruction for students who are not able to come to our classrooms or our campus, or they would like to take classes at home. Perhaps it's the working person or the stay-at-home mom, or for whatever reason. There are often times when students would prefer not to come to our campus. We received a grant for $2.5 million in the fall of 2015, a Title III grant, which is a federal grant. And the premise for that grant is to use that money to develop our distance learning program. And so we started in 2015 with a plan. The first step was hiring Lewis McIntyre. He is our Title III project director and is in charge of our Title III grant. Then we have Bridget Gloucester. She is the Title III activity coordinator. Gabriel Rumley-Smith is an instructional designer. Kristen Merritt is our online student support and technical specialist. And Curtis Dunlap is a distance learning specialist. So as you can see, it takes a lot of talent and a lot of time to develop any program from the ground up. And that's basically where you started, right, Lewis? Mm-hmm. Well, tell me just a little bit about what is the Title III grant?
Well, Title III, and you've probably heard of different types of grants that come out of the Department of Education. It's one of like maybe 4 of the different types of grants. You have like Title I, 2, 3, 4, financial aid, Title IV. Title I, you've probably heard of those supporting different local education agencies like in the public schools. And so Title III is for higher ed. And so we're Title III Part A, Strengthening Institutions or Strengthening Institutions program. And so what it does is provides money for us to build infrastructure as well as provide professional development. And so we were blessed to be able to get a $2.5 million grant that's going to carry us for 5 years. The grant will terminate in the year 2020. But again, it gives us an opportunity to provide professional development and support the infrastructure for our distance learning program here.
Well, explain a little bit about what the infrastructure and the support is, like what is distance learning?
Okay, so, and I'm going to let some people talk.
Certainly.
Know more than I do.
Okay.
So, but when we look at the infrastructure piece, it's kind of starting over. When we look at Rockingham Community College, we're one of the 58 community colleges in the North Carolina Community College system. And so when we look at the amount of FTE full-time equivalents that we were earning based on students taking distance learning, out of the 58, we were at the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, which being at the bottom was not a bad thing because it afforded us a $2.5 million grant to push us up. And so when we look at infrastructure, if you're going to bring on distance learning in the way that it should be done, then you're going to need technology, you're going to need people, you're going to need facilities to be able to, again, carry out that. And that's where they come in.
That's where you started.
Yeah, that's where the big
this.
team comes in there. And I don't know, they may have something they want to add to that.
When you start talking about distance learning, there's kind of some understanding of what it is. So distance learning allows us the opportunity to provide classes to people who are in remote locations. It allows us the opportunity to have programs, not just programs that are taken from a face-to-face place and dumped on an online setting, but classes that are specifically designed to enhance the learning and the student success of people who are taking classes in a remote way. We talk about it all the time that when we start talking about distance learning and e-learning, that's a different paradigm. It's a shifting because you take instructors and transition them from their role as sage on the stage to this person who facilitates learning, who is using technology in a way to allow a student to be responsible for the learning. It allows them to engage the learning material in different ways. It allows them to engage with other students in different ways. And so it's a unique it's a very unique way of delivering courses, and that unique way of delivering courses requires a different level of support. It requires a Curtis to make sure that the LMS is in place. It requires a Gabe and a Kristen to make sure that the technology is in place, to make sure that the right pedagogy is being applied, to make sure that the right technology is being applied, to make sure that the student gets what they need out of that type of program. So distance learning is challenging, but done right, it's a very rewarding format for delivering classes.
Tell me a little bit about the technology. I'm certain we had to put in place technology that was not here if we didn't really have a distance learning program. So what was the first steps?
At the foundation of everything we do is what Curtis does. And Curtis does our Moodle administration. He can tell you a little bit about our LMS.
Yeah, well, that's our learning management system, Moodle. I provide support for faculty in the creation of classes and transferring of materials from previous courses if they want to use that. Also, I provide support and help with students if they're having issues with it in their online environment. And also, besides the learning management system, we have a North Carolina information hiring room where we can receive and broadcast classes to remote locations. And usually it's another community college. Last semester we had 3 community colleges connecting to us. We were broadcasting an anthropology class. We had schools in a remote location in the county connected to us and receiving instruction that way too.
So I was in that classroom, and Aaron Bowman was the professor in there. So in his classroom, we had a classroom full of our students, but his classroom activities were being broadcast to other community colleges.
Yes, Bladen Community College and Surrey Community College. And
Okay.
the microphones and the cameras in there, it's like having the schools connected. They might as well be in the same room.
Right.
The mics are very sensitive. They can talk and see each other. And it's a good way of sharing and for students to meet other students that are not on campus.
But in addition to what we do with the Moodle setup, we have the technology that we use to enhance the instructional pieces, and Kristen works a lot with that. You can tell them a little bit about that.
We have the studio that the Title III grant helped us to establish. It has a learning glass in there that the instructors use a lot to do math or to map out certain objectives that they're trying to teach in their class. We also use green screen technology in there. We have certain software programs in the faculty development room where the stations have Presenter and Camtasia, where an instructor can go in there and privately narrate over top their PowerPoints and record that to a video and upload that to give further explanation in the online course and to make their presence a face-to-face type meeting with the student, so they're not all the time reading, that the instructor actually has a presence in the course.
And so you get this combination of Moodle, you get this combination of this new tech, and then we take all of that stuff and we merge it together to create this engaging experience. And that's exactly where our instructional designer comes in.
So you're going to tell me what it would be like if I were a student, or what I'm actually going to sell. Like I sign up for English 111 online.
So what I do is I actually help the faculty first. They want to design a course that's going to be an online course. We map out their content, and then I help them to design an online course. And like Bridget said, it's a different paradigm. They've got to have everything in an online course has got to be intentional. I mean, every aspect's got to be planned out. There's no grabbing your textbook and running down to the lecture hall and winging it. You can't do that. And being a former faculty member, we've all had those days. Online, you can't do that. So with Curtis's piece and Christie's piece, and then the Quality Matters standard, that's a nationally recognized standard that we train all of our Title III faculty on. We take all those pieces and we put together a very rigorous quality online course that has engagement, activities, assessments, content mapped out, intentionally designed to engage that student.
I want to piggyback on her discussion about intentionality. Like I said, the distance learning environment is kind of something that's very unique, and at the very heart of it is the intentionality. What makes a quality online class is having a class where you have learning objectives and course objectives that are clearly identified. You map with the help of the instructional designer and the technologists, you're mapping those things, those activities together, and everything comes together with the express intent of making sure that every student has a successful opportunity. We design the class to make sure that as we give content, as we give instructional material, that they're directly mapping back to this very intentionally designed course of learning that takes a student from point A all the way to point Z, and we're making sure that as we go, every activity enhances that journey. And it really does take a team effort to do that. We walk hand in hand with the instructors as they do it. And, when we first start talking about building an e-learning class, of course, instructors are like a little intimidated, so much. But what the testimony that we keep hearing back is that this team does a good job of helping them get to where they're trying to go. If you look at where we used to be in online classes and look at where we are now, the quality is amazing.
Let me ask you this, as you all are talking about the planning and the implementation, just for one instructor and any instructor you want to take, how long was that process? How many hours, how many working hours to
There's a lot of variables in that.
Yeah.
One depends on the comfort of the instructor. How comfortable are they with the technology? Because you have some that you show them one time how to do it, they hit the ground running, you don't hear back from them. And they're done in probably the shortest amount of time. But then you have some that are not that comfortable, or some that's been in the classroom for a really long time, and so they're not comfortable yet with the change. Because it's a really hard change to go through, to change the mindset from, like Bridget said, you're front and center leading, to now you're the moderator, really giving them the content, and then they've got to be disciplined enough, the student has to be disciplined enough to run with it. So there's a lot of variables. It depends on the type of class, like discipline-wise, English or a humanities course versus a science course where you don't have to take into consideration laboratories. So I really couldn't put a number of hours on it for you because it's so many variables.
I think there's also these pieces that go on kind of behind the scene, this preparation piece. Each of our Title III instructors are allowed the opportunity to participate in some professional development opportunities, including the courses through the Online Learning Consortium, and 2 specific courses that we require of them from the Quality Matters organization. They take a rubrics class about the specific things that need to go into a successful and quality course, and then they take a class on designing your own course, and where you take that rubric and you apply it to the process, the practical application of building out the course. Those are some rigorous courses. I've heard more than a few horror stories about the amount of rigor that goes into that. So we, as we think about what we do, our part's kind of the front side. We commend our instructors because our instructors put in a lot of time, and it's not time we can necessarily calculate, because I've heard of people working on weekends and working into the hours. So what we see at the end of the story, there was a lot of thought, a lot of effort, a lot of adjustment, a lot of everything that went into what that instructor was able to do, and like she was saying, there's this technology that we put with it, and some instructors are more comfortable than others, but Chrissy does a great job of helping people to kind of bridge their technology hurdles.
Yeah. Well, tell me, anyone, about us. I'm sure you've had many successful classes, but if one comes to mind, what class it was, what kind of experience did you all have with the faculty who was trying to develop it, and then student response, just whatever you'd like to share about that type of success.
Thank you, Jason. I think we have an English course that is going into the Associate of Arts online program, because the intent of the Title III grant was to build 2 100% online programs that a student can graduate from at the end of the grant. Both of these programs should be developed, and one of which is the Associate of Arts program. All classes in that should be online by the end of the grant. We have an English instructor that I've been blessed to help him put his stuff online, and he comes in and we do videos, and it makes me feel good that I can take some of that burden off of him, because a lot of instructors, like she was saying, spend multiple hours upon hours, because building a quality online course takes a lot of time. But because he's able to come in and he has a support staff, because essentially that's what we are here, to support the faculty and the students, being able to help him build those videos out and to help him outline his class and have introductions to the modules to help students guide their learning in that modules, I think has been a success.
From the science department, since I was a former faculty member of the science department, there's two classes that stand out to me there. Anatomy and physiology. We have an instructor there, and I mean that's a hard course, that's a tough course, and he would come to our studio very often and would narrate all of his content.
I was there Friday afternoon, actually.
He narrates all of his content. So he's very methodical and goes through like all of his content, all of his PowerPoint slides, and to give his students that extra, explanation. Our Biology 110 course is our first science course that went completely online as far as labs and content. And that's been very successful. The students have really liked that because it's an adaptive laboratory, meaning they can repeat it. So it's not one and done. They can repeat it, and it's adaptive. So it changes to them and helps strengthen their weak points. So to me, that's a better learning process because, if a student does, our laboratories are built to help them understand the content better. So if you only give them one chance on a laboratory, and they need to be able to go back and figure out what they did. So this was a very inventive and innovative way that I think really helped those students and helped us bridge the gap, because there was always the worry of how are you going to do laboratories online, right? And to get them to help the students understand what they need to, but also to keep them safe, because all laboratories are safe environments. So this was a great way. A lot of those laboratories are virtual, but they work really well, and they're adaptive, so the students can, like I said, repeat and get a better understanding.
Let me ask you this, because I did my second degree all online. So I never saw an instructor. All I had was the assignments and Blackboard, I believe, at the time. So I'm here in North Carolina. I went to class in Virginia. So that's where my online classes were. So this distance learning here at Rockingham Community College, is that just for students in the county? Do you have instructors who are off-site instructors as well? So can you just break it down to our audience who might be interested in seeking? What's their process as far as how do they attend a distant learning school, which is here, college here, and get their associate degree for 2 years, correct? So what's that process? How would that look to them, just your student?
So going back to your earlier part of your question, so when we look at distance learning, it's just not dedicated to this county or this state. And so as a matter of fact, we just received what we refer to as NC-SARA certification, which basically means that we can offer classes in any state in the United States.
Right.
And so that's what we're hoping, is that more students, across, again, the nation will take classes here, but we got to start home first.
Right.
And with that being said, in terms of reaching out beyond the campus, so Curtis mentioned earlier that we're also located in the high schools. So those students can take classes in the environment he mentioned earlier, their virtual classroom, as well as through e-learning. And then the other thing we're looking at in terms of students and branching out into the local area, we're reaching out into like the homeschoolers. Yeah, so those are ones that can take classes here at the college. But in terms of the process that they go through to register for classes, so we do have online registration. We do have that process in place there. So they basically go through the same logistics, but in a different, kind of like what you did when you went to the school in Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've done, you know, he's talking about the fact that we have the online registration. We are building with the intent of moving beyond just who's around the corner, and so in order to be able to do that, we have to provide online support services that are akin to what you get if you were on campus. So one of those things is orientation. So how do you get oriented if you're in Alaska and you're going to class at RCC? Chrissy was instrumental in helping us get that part of the grant deliverable accomplished with the development of our online orientation. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Sure thing. Basically, we've taken the information from orientation that would be instrumental for an online student to learn, because they don't need to know everything that a face-to-face student needs to, but they need to know that our library, for instance, has online services that they can use. They need to know what services I offer. They need to know what services throughout the college that they can utilize being an online student. So we take those individual pieces and we tell them all about it and how to access them and who to call if they need help and things like that. It's basically what it amounts to. How to use the technology. There's videos on there to in case they're not quite there yet, you know. So they explain step by step how to set things up. Explains the learning management system, which is Moodle right now, our Moodle platform, so they can navigate through that and hopefully be successful in their course.
So I just been thinking about student success and how the program has evolved. You know, how many students do we have enrolled in online classes, and how many classes do we have? And you know, the other thought is, what sets apart a student who you feel like will be successful in online? Because online may not be for everybody, and it may work very well for some. So I would expect a very independent student.
Yeah, I think
But,
that's
yeah, so
it.
just
Said it
anybody
earlier.
jump in on any of those things about our offerings here.
Okay. So, because you asked about 3 questions.
So how many?
Do that.
So I'm going to pick the easy one and let them have So when we look at student success, so we are charged to develop 44 classes.
Okay.
And when we say that in the audience of someone that's involved in distance learning, they go like, oh my God.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of classes. And so for those 2 programs there. And so we started out with like 6 classes the first year, and then we navigated to 12. Now we got 12 more classes. And so as far as student performance in the class, one of the metrics is that 80% of the students that take the classes have to make a C or better. We're above that level with that first cohort of classes and students. And so that, I think that says a lot about not only just the team here, but a lot about the faculty and what they've gone through to develop the classes. And then that kind of navigates back to the type of student that takes that course. And so they mentioned it earlier, you're going to have someone that's pretty much disciplined. And I think they kind of self-select, because once students learn about, you know, the amount of time and effort it takes, they kind of self-select for those.
Well, while we could design the class for student success, it does require the student making that same connection, that same commitment. Our task is to help instructors lay it out in such a way that a student who has decided they want to learn can. And then from there, what we do is we make sure that the support systems that they need are in place. When they can't get into Moodle, they have Mr. Curtis's number on speed dial. When they're having challenges with just navigating the online system in general, they have Miss Christie's number online. So I think one of the beautiful things we've done, even as we build out the classes, is we've laid down the support system that they need as instructors and as students to be successful in the process.
And also, even if you have an online student, that student still has a faculty advisor. So that faculty advisor will help them to decide, if the online is right for them. Now, you still have some students like, no, I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
But our faculty advisor are also some of the same faculty that are building these courses, so they can definitely speak to the rigor of the course and advise a student that, you've got to have a certain level of independence and discipline to stay on top of your online course.
There was one thing, navigating back to something that was mentioned earlier. So when we talk about designing the courses, and you design the courses with student learning in mind. So back in, seemed like forever, years ago when I started teaching in a hybrid environment, it was like, well, I like this, and I like this, and I like this. But that was what I liked, and I thought fit. But once you go through the QM training and, again, the professional development that we provide, then you realize, oh, wait a minute, it's not about what you like.
Right.
There is a standard that you need.
So it's
to
probably
meet.
developing these courses has probably stretched some of our faculty a great deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm hearing that.
But it's a good thing,
But I'm
though.
hearing they've spent a lot of time and they've invested time in it,
Yeah.
and that's good. And I'm also hearing that just because it's a distance learning course, it does not mean that it's easy. In fact, it may be more difficult because you have more things to navigate, and you have to be independent thinking and driven to complete tasks.
Committed. And responsible.
Right.
And accountable.
But I think it's especially thrilling to think that by the end of this grant cycle, we should have an associate in arts
And criminal justice was the other.
and a criminal
Right.
justice online,
Yes.
and so that's awesome.
It's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Before we go, I just wanted to say that support is very important. The students and especially the faculty being able to call and get help with something small where we might think it's small, they might not think it's small, trying to get onto Moodle because maybe they just hit the wrong button. So is that like 24 hours support, or is that just you have certain time ranges?
Well, it can be. Sometimes if I'm awake and I have my, my phone's, ringing me, but, most of the time it's during the school hours, but I have worked over hours as I did this weekend.
Oh, I'm sure.
And Friday night. But we're glad to do it, offer that support. And I think allay new students' fears about taking online classes, let them know that they can do it and certainly be there for the faculty whenever they have an issue.
And let them know they can do it too.
They can do it too. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what a great learning experience, Sally. We've learned a lot today, and we appreciate you all being with us
Thank
today
you.
and
Thank
sharing
you.
this with
Thank
our
you.
community.
Appreciate it.
And if anyone has more questions about distance learning, call us. Be happy to talk to you about it. Some quick announcements. I'm really excited. Our baseball team, they are the Division III NJCAA champions and are heading to Greenville, Tennessee for the World Series. That's going to be broadcast on our website this week, so watch out for that. It's time to register for fall. If you haven't done so, come in and apply and let us help you get started. And finally, an enormous thank you. An enormous thank you to all of the citizens in Rockingham County for voting the quarter-cent sales tax. Soon we will have a section on our website devoted to the progress and explaining a little bit to citizens and anyone what that means and how we're going to use the money. It's not one of those things that we can start using it the day it was voted in. There have to be some procedures put in place, but we do want to share priority lists and methods with the community as soon as possible. So thank you for joining me for RCC Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.